marketer on the run, Remso W. Martinez, helping marketers build skills, finding solutions for business owners, and helping you build and spread your brand far and wide for everyone in between. This is an episode I've been looking forward to for a while. I went ahead and linked up with today's guest probably months ago before I even had anything formalized and said, you're one of the first people I want to have on. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We have my buddy Trey. Trey Lowell is an owner of Lowell Productions and small video production company based in Jacksonville, Florida. He's officially a Florida man.
I am.
He's a self-taught, award-winning cinematographer and video editor. Trey has produced everything from electric skateboard ads to documentaries, music videos, short films, congressional campaign ads, and interviews to live event coverage. Overly obsessed with YouTube and video creation, when Trey isn't working on a video project, which he always seems to be pushing something out, he's at home watching sports with his wife and 3 kids, or mowing the lawn, as you should, because the husband duties never stop.
They
Trey,
don't.
it is so great to have you on, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I think I even messaged you when I sent you that bio that I almost cringe when I hear it, but it is satisfying occasionally to hear that kind of stuff. So
I had to do headshots and stuff months ago when I was getting everything together. And the one person I never want to see a photo of is myself. And I went ahead, I put on the monkey suit and everything, and I was just looking at the photographer. I'm like, listen, if I look stupid, just tell me exactly what you want me to do. And I think the photos turned out well. My wife really likes them, and so far, anyone who's seen them hasn't said anything. But yeah, no, I'm just like that. I think your bio is great, but we're creatives, we're entrepreneurs, we're always our biggest critics.
Sure, absolutely. And I know we were talking about that before we even got recording. But yeah, man, owning a small video production company in Jacksonville, Florida. I think I have just started my 4th year. We connected years ago up in Washington, D.C., correct? Through FreedomWorks.
10 years ago at FreedomWorks. I was an intern. You were driving around the country going to Baltimore and everywhere else they'd throw you, creating video content that no other remotely political organization was putting out. That's the crazy thing about it, because they really weren't. And if they were, it was always some politician or some, academic sitting in front of a chair just talking about stuff. No one was really putting out the content that you were at the time.
It is funny that you mentioned that, because unfortunately you can't go back and find the documentaries on FreedomWorks channel anymore. I'm kind of frustrated about that. But at the time, I didn't even know kind of what we were getting into. And when I go back and kind of watch them, because I still have them on old hard drives, I'm kind of impressed. It was raw. It was gritty. It was kind of scary. Honestly, I'm like a 5'5" white dude, and going into Baltimore and Detroit and all these places and shoving cameras in people's faces. You have experience with this, you and your brother. It's intimidating, but when you go back and watch the stories, it's pretty awesome, man. Especially because we get paid to do that. I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I look back at the first documentary, my brother, award-winning docuseries producer, Ryan Martinez, did. The first time we filmed anything, we didn't have a plan. We had no money. Our mom had to help get us a hotel room for our first documentary, and I was driving and Ryan was plotting, and we did it on 2 Canon Rebel cameras and an iPhone. And I look back now, and it's better than it should have been, but we had no clue what we were doing. And the evolution from there, the amount of time, money, skills we had to learn, when you look at it across so many years, it always makes you wonder. It's like, why did I even think I could do that in the first place?
Honestly, sometimes you just have to have that approach.
Yeah.
But yeah, just, since I think we kind of worked at FreedomWorks over the past 10 years. I worked for a couple of different groups, started my own video production company, and kind of to sum it up, worked for FreedomWorks for, almost 6 years. They treated me so well. Actually, even in the end, I got contracted to still fulfill my video work for them, but also full flexibility to go do my own thing. Sometimes I kick myself. Dude, it was awesome. And sometimes I kick myself because I was making basically my salary, and I still got an office, access to the gear, everything like that. But I eventually parted ways with that because someone came to me with a pretty hefty salary and took it from there. And that was actually CRTV at the time, that then it got kind of bought up by the Blaze. And then the evolution of that is I ended up working for Free the People for, gosh, like 3 or 4 years. And then COVID happened and I had to move away from DC. I had 2 kids at the time, decided to come back home to Florida, become Florida man again. And
Hashtag Florida man.
yeah, man. And you know what? I can't tell you how much I admire Florida man now that I lived up in Virginia for a while. Like, I want to like hug every Florida man. It's very comforting. I don't know why.
Man,
Some people hate that, but
I felt the same way when I moved to Wisconsin shortly after COVID. Going from Northern Virginia to outside, in the suburbs of Milwaukee was a total game changer. But it was crazy because so many entrepreneurs had to do that. And that spurred a lot of people. A lot of my clients now did not ever think that they would be going into e-commerce or retail or content marketing or anything until the lockdowns happened. I mean, remote
sure.
work itself was an anomaly. Now it's every day for a
Oh,
lot of
it's
folks.
what most people even demand in their jobs is the flexibility of working at home, which I think has its ups and downs. Do you
I
work?
still go to the library like 3 days a week to get a
Are,
private workroom because I just can't work in my apartment every single
It's
day.
so funny that you say that because I was just about to ask you, are you pretty much at home most days? Because I'm out here in a garage right next to my house, but any days that I get to go out and shoot or interact with humans, I'm definitely excited about it.
I quickly, like, my first year of working remote was 2020, and I quickly was like, if because I thought it was temporary at the time. It's like I can go work at the library, I could go work at Starbucks or something. Instead, it was like, no, I have the corner of the basement because my entire family, I was living with my family at the time, everyone was home and everyone has conferences and everyone needs the
Oh yeah,
Wi-Fi. And now, I love Milwaukee because there's always places you could do work. Everyone has Wi-Fi you could tap into, I take almost all my meetings exclusively outside of my apartment, because especially for like negotiations or for tent stuff, it's like, I can't have my workspace also be the space where I unwind. So I've
yeah.
had to kind of figure that out for myself over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah. One thing you brought up was like when you moved, a lot of people kind of like transitioning, maybe like businesses and things. And one thing I will say, in our space that I've found, especially as someone that because of COVID left to come down here, is a lot of people in my space started businesses because of COVID. Which I think is one thing we always look at. Like, we lost a ton of businesses during COVID, but I'm coming to find out a lot of people, for some reason, COVID pushed them into doing things that they might not normally do. It kind of pushed them over the edge to be like, you know what? My career is totally based in DC. Screw it. I'm going to Florida. Or maybe even like you said, you're in Northern VA and you're like, I'm out of here, dude. I can't take this anymore. I only bring that up is because I just think it's a unique situation that we were all kind of dealt, but in a weird way, it was like a blessing to my business personally. It's taken a lot of work and effort since I've moved down here, but man, it's been a really fun process and something I didn't never think I'd do. I thought I was going to be stuck in politics forever. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, it's been so great because you've got a YouTube channel. I'll go ahead and link to that in the show
yeah,
notes today. The evolution of where you've gone, because you do a lot of product reviews. You used to interview, friends and coworkers and stuff like that. But it was really seeing the business evolution. I remember watching the video where you were packing up your studio, and it was so cool because it was time lapse and everything. So it looked like it took you like 5 seconds, but it probably took you like 5 hours.
oh
And
yeah,
to take that risk on yourself is an incredibly difficult thing to do. I like what Rick Ross said to somebody who asked him, "How do I become like you one day?" He's like, "Man, just stay in the cold." Well, he said a
yeah,
lot of other expletives, but I'll take those out. But he was like, "You
sure,
got to stay in the cold because the cold is where progress happens." So I'm wondering, like, as you went and really brought about your entrepreneurial self, you went from nonprofits to now having to work with more, private businesses and folks. How do you pitch your value as a videographer and the work you do and the quality that you put into things? How can professional videos actually help brands express their value to clients? Because I find that, when you're pitching marketing or when you're pitching specific types of content, a lot of people want to do it in house, or they think that immediately it's going to be a giant budget or something. But what I tell people is, if you could tell your story, especially through video, that's going to put you miles ahead of your competition.
Sure. So you're mentioning going from like the nonprofit sector to the for-profit. It has been a little bit of adjustment. I've been fortunate enough to keep a couple of my nonprofit clients, even through the move from DC down here. Now those are monthly retainers where I'm kind of maybe chopping up clips, taking some of their appearances on TV and things of that nature, making them look nice. My approach to people in the nonprofit sector, it's kind of, I don't really have a strategy other than it's all been through word of mouth, and a lot of it has been through free work. A lot of my clients that I approach probably have budgets anywhere from $500 upwards to like 20,000. And I know that's a huge range, but that's kind of where I thrive. And the reason being is I found when I was up in DC, a lot of people have never done video, or if they have, they've never done it well, but they're scared of the price tag that comes along with it. So my strategy was always to, hey, if I liked the group, I'd go out, I'd kind of do a free product so they saw the value in it. And then it was almost, this is a bad analogy, it's like a drug. They get a taste of it, their audience really likes it. They kind of see a little bit more interaction than maybe like a newsletter or just a normal thumbnail. And that kind of starts the relationship. And that's kind of been my approach with nonprofits. Now, for profits, about the same. Everything's word of mouth, kind of just show up. I mean, recently I was down here. Humana is a healthcare company that's absolutely huge down here.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently was filming a podcast for one client, and it got brought up that they had an event, and it was like, hey, have you ever had your event recorded? No, we haven't. All right, well, why don't you have me show up? That's kind of my strategy, and it's really worked well for me. Yeah, so that's kind of how I approach a bunch of businesses. I will say, you mentioned like doing YouTube. I've been doing it now for like 8 years, and probably in the past 2 years have I seen results where I'm actually getting contacted now because of YouTube and because of Instagram. I think a lot of people think that there's going to be immediate results, that you just put yourself out there and all of a sudden it's just going to come back tenfold. I'm going to be the first one to tell you, it's like my wife constantly is like, are you going to keep making YouTube videos? It makes no sense. And it's now starting, the return is coming on the investment. So
Man, I mean that last part, that was me with podcasting for years. Podcasting before video. And
yeah,
my entire career, from my first actual job to where I am at now, everything came through podcasting. Most of my bosses were former guests on my show.
really.
And oh
That's
yeah, that's
awesome. That
really
is
weird.
freaking so
And that
awesome.
was never the intention either. It was just that sparked a relationship. That was a good way to like at least get the introduction made. And everyone likes to talk about themselves. But I mean, for years it didn't do well.
Yeah,
And I got really discouraged for a bit. And then at some point it picked up because I started doing other things. But I stress to people, like, you gotta work with specialists, and you see the price tag sometimes. And I think it's a stigma, because when you actually look at the amount of work that goes into it, or the amount of time that they have had to put into something to become an expert, you start to see it differently. The last nonprofit job I worked at, I was a digital marketing manager. I was also the photographer. I was also the web designer.
a jack of all trades.
And then I had to become the documentary guy. And, I have produced, and I have I've been the camera guy for documentaries in the past. I would not say that I'm an expert, but I was the person who knew how to turn on a camera.
Sure.
I would have to go out, and the last documentary I actually filmed was like a 3-minute short docu film in like 2022, when the schools in Milwaukee public schools shut down. There was also a giant blizzard. It was COVID related, and I had to do that, and they gave me 3 days to do it and $100 budget to like promote it afterward,
Yeah.
and it came out looking pretty good. But the reason why I say this isn't to say that, like, marketers should do everything. I had argued for a while. It's like, if you want this even better, if you want this more frequently, look at what this took me away from. I know people in town that could do this. We could probably find students that would do it for free. You have to be able to get the actual specialist in to do what it is to get the results you want. And I
Sure.
feel that for a lot of businesses, when they're having discussions with their marketers, that seems to be um, something that is still a difficult conversation. So when you're approached by clients, particularly business clients, do they typically know what they want? Do they know what to expect? Or are you having to walk through the process of slowly pitching them to display your value and what you could actually do for them results wise from like the bottom up?
Pretty much all of that, because as mentioned, all my clients they're new to video. So I think that's one thing that's been nice with my particular background coming from FreedomWorks and then doing the whole political thing, and also being self-taught, is being like really flexible and understanding, like, because we started making videos years ago, not knowing what was going on, you're starting from scratch and you're kind of just like learning over and over the things that do and don't work, obviously. But that being said, I think that I am very patient with clients and I can kind of lay it out exactly what it's going to look like. But at the same time, I think the difference between me and others is that I'll give you a perfect example. A health design company recently reached out to me and they're like, we want a 1-minute video that we can just put in an email that kind of tells you about our services. And I was like, okay, send me a couple examples of what you've seen you like, which for my end of things, that's huge because I can just replicate. And typically I see something and receive it and I'm like, okay, I like this, I don't like that, and then I add my own little twist to it. My approach with most of those clients is, okay, this is what you want to do. All right, when are you available for me to show up in person? And I highly do that on purpose because I don't know what it is when people meet me in person. Usually it's like, okay, he's good at his work, but now we also like him and we like how he interacts with us. Because I think half of probably the relationship between a marketer or even somebody like myself is like, can you even like communicate with these people? Because if you can't, it's never going to work unless you're just like completely badass and you just blow their expectations out of the water from the get-go. So all that being said is that I typically try to show up honestly immediately when they mention an interest of like what they want to do. And then I kind of show up, and for this particular client, we just recorded a voiceover. And then I just said, hey guys, here's the deal. We've got 3 different tracks, different employees reading this. Send me a music track that you kind of like. They send me that. I take it from there, and then it shows up basically in my eyes finished. So that's my approach on purpose because one, it puts me in the driver's seat of like, rather than them having to do too much thinking, I kind of already know from the examples of what they want as the final product. And I think just taking it from there, it just takes the anxiety of them, because you approach someone and you're like, write a script, give me the B-roll. Like you start listing off things and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that is my approach with most of my clients. But I think it boils down to 99% of them have never done this. They've never had any process. So I'm fully in control. I have found when I work on massive productions where you're getting like $50,000 for the gig, there's so many guidelines and rules and planning that's going into that like you couldn't even present that to the kind of clients I'm working with. Their heads would explode. We need a makeup artist. We need, this. We need a gaffer. They don't even. So mine is just a simple all-in-one approach. I meet them. I find out what their needs are. And as soon as possible, try to get them something in their hands. And I say as soon as possible because one of the keys to my success is that I'm faster than everyone. I'm about, let's just say the gold standard, what you see on TV. I can guarantee you about 75% of that quality, but 75% cheaper and probably 75% faster. And it's just a step and repeat process that I've kind of implemented. It's becoming a little overwhelming as my business has grown. Like right now I've got a list of 9 projects that are on my to-do list. And that's what's going to get tricky is finding that happy middle ground where I can still provide what I've described to you, but also be able to maintain it or hopefully one day hire someone to expand.
Yeah, and for the marketers listening, if you want to, even try and bring on, an outside contractor or subcontractor to work with, your client who's a business owner, the one thing that I've had to stress to people, whether they're a business owner or whether they're a marketer themselves, is understand what you're not good at or what you
Yeah.
don't have the time to learn or what you just cannot feasibly deliver. Because, surface level, can I make a commercial? Yes. So if you had to look at Trey and I and ask the same question, can either of you make a commercial? The answer is yes.
Yes.
But I can tell you that the level that Trey is going to put out is completely different than the level I'm going to put out because I don't live and breathe this. I only know surface level stuff to get a basic result. So you got to understand, it's like, do you want a Kia or do you want a Ferrari?
Well, and you know what's interesting, and even in your space, and I'd love to have this kind of debate, is that like, yes, we all want the Ferrari, but sometimes in the marketing space, the Ferrari actually performs worse than the Kia. And what I like, it's really weird. And I have to have this conversation with my clients sometimes is like, my polished videos, don't get me wrong. That's what I want most people to pay me to do. But I have found over the past like 3 years is that there's definitely a space where it's like, okay, can we film this on iPhones? Can we streamline this? Because it's not making sense for me to bring in three high-end cameras. It actually makes more sense for us to do this on an iPhone. So it's weird with marketing, and I kind of feel bad for you guys. And I have to have this debate with my clients and even marketers that I work with of like, what is the right formula for each kind of client? And it totally differs, man.
Yeah.
Do you find that with your clients?
It's everything. And even when I was the in-house guy, it was the conversation, and I always brought up 3 points. It's like, how much do you want to pay for it? How fast do you want it? And what do you want it to look like? Because just like you said, like I filmed stuff on like high-end cameras. The last documentary I did it on an iPhone,
Which are
and
just fine, man.
which
I
are
mean,
just fine. Like I
yeah,
still do a lot of my stuff just with an iPhone. But, you gotta understand that, and, I'm just curious, like, if I come to you and I'm like, "Hey, Trey, I've got a client. He's a small business owner. He just wants to film, like, a 2-minute commercial
sure.
for his business. He wants to put it only on Instagram, so it's not going on TV." Like, what does that conversation look like? And then what's the process from we're having this discussion to you're actually turning in a final product for us?
Sure. So it would just be for like an Instagram or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So typically, like a conversation like that is, I, it's old school maybe, but I usually just straight up, what's your budget? Because I have to, I, I will be crazy flexible if I like you. I know that sounds awful, but like, let's say I
It's the
like your
truth.
brand or I like what you're about. It's just the truth. Like, I've got one 501c3 nonprofit up in DC, a group of older ladies, and I give them the steal of a deal because they're about families and they're just like, I just like what they're about. So, first question is right out of the gate. Hey, Remso, just hit me with it. Like, what do you want to pay? And if you shoot out a number that's like bizarro, I'll then probably counter a little bit with like, okay, like realistically, this is where I would normally float, but we can probably go to this. So money is going to be the first thing. It just has to be. And then probably from that process is, do you want someone on camera? Like, do you care to see someone being featured on camera? And I had to find out really quick because if they say no, that can actually make this process a lot easier because then we can pivot to a voiceover. And a lot of people in the beginning, I find my clients, because they're so terrified of the cameras, they trend towards the voiceover. So that'll be one of the conversations: voiceover versus talent on camera. Obviously, if talent's on camera, sometimes that will increase the cost because that means I got to come out. But if they go the whole voiceover route, typically it then boils down to, okay, put me a rough script together. And a lot of times I'll tell my clients, let's go on Google. All right, you want a 60-second ad? All right, how many words are in a 60-second ad? And just say, hey, here are your guidelines. You got 150 words that can fit in the 50 seconds. And I need to know what your call to action is on the end of this video. And a lot of times, like, what the heck is the call to action? I'm like, what are you trying to tell people at the very end of this? All right, is your website, are you trying to make them do something? And that's typically the process. And as mentioned even earlier, once they give me that, my clients in, they as long as I get the music right, that is probably the trickiest thing with a lot of my clients. Sometimes I hit them with like what I think's a trendy track that might work better. Sometimes they'll kind of, oh, we need to pump the brakes. We need it a little bit, more old school. But yeah, that's the process. It's money, it's voiceover versus talent, and then probably what's your turnaround. But once again, it goes back to typically people will be like, I need it in a month or two. And I'm like, all right, I'll have it into like 2 weeks, maybe a rough draft in a week. So, and that goes back to the political experience of when I was having to make videos for FreedomWorks and CRTV and The Blaze, you were making a video a day. So when someone hits me up and they're like, they give me a month, in my head, I'm like, well, I got to get this shit done as fast as possible because honestly, my interest in the project completely just from the conversation that I have with like you or the client, the more days that go by, the less energy I have towards the project. So I usually dive into things almost immediately.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why you're the specialist in this, because how many years did it take for you to be able to take something that could take me probably a month and you can get it in a couple of days.
I was talking to you about this too. Well, it took about 10 years, but I'll say this. The other thing too is like I've gotten into the sense of like I'm not a perfectionist, which is why I mentioned like you're going to get 70-75% from me of what the big boys, because I don't have the time to spend and you don't have the money to spend for me to do all that stuff. So yeah, the quickness thing is one thing that really helps, and then not being attached to the project. Like I'm attached to it because I like the brand and I like who I'm working with, but like the whole this needs to be perfect, or oh, I need to get the perfect B-roll shot. 99% of the time, here's my test. I make the video, I walk into my house, show it to my wife, and if she kind of goes, I didn't catch anything, it seems fine to me, that's my test group. Because to me, she's about as knowledgeable as your average consumer. She probably knows more now because of, working with me so much with this stuff, but that's how the workflow goes. She's my test group, and then it goes off to the client.
This is also one example. You mentioned being attached to it. This is why, especially for the nonprofit space, which has gone through so many changes the last 4 years, I actually tell nonprofits specifically. Small businesses is a different thing, but I tell nonprofits specifically, I don't think you need a full-time marketer. Well,
Oh, I agree.
I think what you need is a fractional CMO, a fractional chief marketing officer, or you need someone to go on contract for a little bit to manage certain things, because you're going to get the most objective feedback back. You're also dealing with somebody, nonprofits, they want their digital marketer to do everything. And
Yeah.
frankly, that's not it. And if you put 5 digital marketers in the room, they're all going to be specialists in different things. That's why I partner with so many agencies, because I'm like, listen, if I can't do something for you, I can at least take you over to my friend who does this one very specific thing, and he'll
Sure.
give me like a commission. But I tell nonprofits specifically, it's like, this is where you get the flexibility, you get the experience, you save the money, and this is when you can bring people in. And ultimately, what I found with in-house marketing teams is that they get fixed to their projects, but they're also having to deal with donors, with board of directors. And then what you get are products that only speak to them, and they're not speaking to the end consumer. And while they think that they know what they want, the truth is that there's a miles difference between what you think is good because you saw one of your competitor nonprofits do it, versus what's actually going to get somebody to receive that CTA, and then you get a donation, and then that
Yeah.
$5 person turns into a $5,000 person. Next thing you know, they're going to your dinner and they're writing their, your whole thing into their estate or will or something. Like,
Sure.
sometimes you need that barrier between you. And I think in marketing and nonprofits specifically, this is when you don't need somebody in there all the time. You need to trust the experience of the person that you're contracting, because they want to keep this relationship going. It's a little bit more, strenuous in that way, but ultimately what you're going to get back is the truth of what's actually happening.
Sure. It's funny you bring all this stuff up because yesterday I was filming a podcast with a marketing specialist, and what he is trying to do is create a, kind of like a group or like an educational series where he is teaching your average Joe that you're saying like works at a nonprofit but is tasked with the marketing and all that stuff. He's actually just trying to educate them on like what someone like you actually brings to the table, because like and this is the same with my industry. Like if that person that is in direct communication with you does not know what you bring to the table and understand any of the lingo or whatnot, they're never even going to know the value in what you're bringing to the table, even if you end up doing. Now, of course, they're probably going to look at impressions and, those kind of things, and the very simple, the basic stuff
The
that most of us,
vanity KPI.
yeah, like the things that are like, they're the big numbers that everyone wants to tout, even though they don't mean a hoopla. But this guy was just making the case for like one thing smaller companies to do is they need to educate themselves for when they do team up with the marketer, they can take it to the full advantage of that relationship. And he was also making the case for too many people expect when they bring in someone like you immediate results. And this guy was like, no, man, if you're properly doing this, like this process might take, he actually said his analogy was like the process of having a baby. It's going to take about 9 months for us to implement this stuff, find these people, target them, bringing them in, and then convert them. And he was like, the biggest problem is just people want instant results when they bring in someone like yourself. And that's
And that's the
tough.
hardest thing. That's why we do this series. You made it so easy for me to plug. I've got a free ebook that you can go ahead and grab today, people. It's called the Small Business Owners Digital Marketing Handbook.
There we go.
Basically, where you can go so we can speak the same language. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to know that I'm offering you the services you actually need. You know what it is you actually want to ask for, and we can get a price that's good for you. My problem with a lot of marketers, especially the ones that sell courses and everything, is that there's so much stuff online. There's so many easy ways to get you the quick answer. You have a lot of marketers that are making it bad for others in the market because they instinctively overcharge, or they're
Sure.
offering services they don't need. My thing is like, we could do a flash in the pan sale and I can fleece you for a lot of money, or we could have a really good, long ongoing relationship, and which is beneficial for both of us.
Oh yeah. I mean, you bring that up, the long going
Who's
relationships.
doing this? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, relationships are everything, and that goes back to my retainer clients, to my potential new clients that are in the future hopefully going to be, coming my way. Yeah, it's so important in regards to that. Relationships are everything, man. I mean, heck, you and I 10 years and we're still in contact with each other. And who knows, one day you might help me get my next gig. I might come across a big project where I need your services. So relationships are so key, man. Speaking of relationships, do you keep up with our buddy Logan Albright ever?
You mean author and documentarian Logan Albright of
Yes.
Free the People? Absolutely.
By the way, are you writing any books currently?
Let's save that for another day.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm 3 books in. I've got projects which maybe I'll announce later.
So Remso, one thing after kind of doing that podcast yesterday with that professional marketer, one thing that I, as someone that's pretty diverse in this space, or at least considers myself, one thing that when he was like breaking down the marketing stuff, it was like, there's so much more than what even somebody like myself knows. Could you describe where you particularly specialize? Like what are you offering that is a little bit, where you're thriving? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a conversation. I was at Starbucks yesterday, so I actually do
Okay.
go work outside, and I overheard a meeting with a guy who does brand awareness campaigns. What he specifically does, though, is he works with industry leaders or people that want to grow their reputation in their industry for like B2B sales. And what he does is he creates a content marketing campaign. So you're not just a realtor that has content. You are the go-to person that other realtors go to learn from. And he does this through podcasting. So he is using podcasting as the medium in which he's going to build a reputation for people. And that's going to create a content strategy. So that way he could get more leads from clients, and also clients who want to consult with him, maybe have him come out to a conference or something. So it's building reputation. And I went over to this guy and I gave him my card. And at first he thought, like, oh, competitor or something else. But I said, no, you do something that I do not have the bandwidth to do. And I have clients coming to me asking me for this, and I have to turn them away. I would love to refer them to you. And his eyes lit up. Why do I bring up this story? Because not every agency, not every marketer does the exact same thing. So where I tell people I come in is twofold. One, it's coaching and consulting. I can help marketers build skills, or help marketers, fine tune their campaigns or their projects or pitches or something like that, so they could display their value to clients or to employers. And then I do corporate coaching, where I will go in and I will teach people how to do a campaign on social media and integrate that with SEO and pay-per-click and email. And I will stress test a team, so that way at the end of like 3 weeks, I did this a couple months ago for a nonprofit, they can take everything they learned and now they can run with it. And I will, meet with them every couple of months, and I get paid hourly for that, to basically help them fine tune things and learn what didn't work, or maybe I didn't instruct them on something. So I can coach whole teams through that, whether they're marketing specialists or whether they're like the secretary who got tasked with Facebook or something. And then there's the other end where it's like, it's SMMA, it's social media management, where I will actually own your brand. I will not own your brand, but I will manage your brand. So that way you don't have to worry about, whether you're the one posting and scheduling stuff to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You can just outsource that to me. But, I will also give you the reports. I'll recommend the changes. In some cases, I'll make the content. So I specialize in that and email. And then, if there's something I can't do and I can do other things, I try and meet the client where they are and make that determination. I've got partners. I've got subcontractors. I can still connect you with the people that you need who are specialists in that exact thing that you need to get done. And in my interest, I have these relationships so I can still get something out of it.
Sure.
But it keeps the ecosystem alive. I'm not really at competition with other marketers. There's so many different marketers doing so many different things, and they have different sectors. I focus on small businesses that are trying to grow, especially startups and nonprofits. There are not many that actually really do that.
Yeah.
You've got individuals who are more like on a freelance basis. What I tell people is when you hire me, you're hiring a team of people and you're getting all the softwares and all the apps you want, because I take care of that for that in-house. And we can go from there. I mean, there's so many businesses out there and there's so many nonprofits out there. There's enough of the pie to really go around, especially when you have a mindset of abundance where it's like, help me out, help you out.
Sure.
It's that's where I try and focus on. That's my niche. I can coach you, I can consult you, and I can also take care of the things that you don't want to do. And if it's something I can't even do, I know somebody who can.
Dude, those are the best answers. And that's what clients want to hear, is that if they come to you, you basically are going to solve whatever problem that they're bringing to the table. Nice.
Yeah.
What
It's a lot.
yeah, well, I mean, this stuff's a grind, and it's like we mentioned, it's all about relationship building. And what are some of the ways outside of like you walking up to someone and just kind of overhearing them and kind of presenting your services that you're kind of getting the word of mouth out? Like, what are other ways, avenues?
I did a lot of direct marketing for a while, which is actually like going out and tangibly meeting people and promoting a product. What I did about last month is I bought about 10 boxes of a dozen donuts from Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
And I put my business card in the box and I had a card on top of it. And in the card, it had a handwritten message from me that said, how would your clients feel? Wouldn't it be great if your clients, I don't know what I say. Wouldn't it be great if each time your clients saw you online, they felt as happy as they did when you got this free box of donuts, ...
That'd be
And
pretty good.
that was, I mean, especially when you're going to somebody's business during the day, they don't want to see you. They think you're soliciting. So my thing was like, this is all introductions. It's
Sure.
all introductions. I had a list of all the businesses that I had one of my contractors. She does assessments for me. She does some copywriting for me. What I do is I said, here's my list of 10 businesses. I need you to tell me what they suck at. And she gave me all the notes, and it was like, they haven't posted to Instagram in 9 months. Their website's outdated. Their security certificate's down. All their competitors are on the first page of Google. They don't have a Google business account, like all these things. So that way she gave me all the notes. I was able to memorize them. And then I went to each of them just to make an introduction, to let them know that, hey, this is who I am. But the big thing is like, why do we do what we do? I do what I do with it because I want to make money. I'm motivated by money. I'll say that. But 60% of small businesses in 2020 that closed down for 2 weeks never opened back up. And I am concerned for, this is where I'm going to sound really grandiose. I am concerned for our society that we're seeing a merger between big corporations and big government, not to get too political, folks, but I'm seeing that. And I want to help motivate the American entrepreneur, because that is the only thing that guarantees true freedom in your life.
Sure.
So any way that I can help entrepreneurs do that. I have some clients that I'm on a retainer for $100 a month. I have clients where I'm on a retainer for a lot more.
Yeah.
But it's about meeting where they are, having that relationship. And then, the upsale comes here and there. The big one-time contract comes here and there. But this is why I love what I do, because I'm able to live off of this, but I'm also able to help other people achieve their goals and achieve their dreams. And, if you don't have a good marriage between the truly selfish end and the, selfless end, it's never going to work. But I think this is also why marketers are booming right now. We've been booming for the past 5 years. Like 10, 15 years ago, digital marketing manager or whatever wasn't even really a title. You were in an ad department or something.
Yeah.
Now it's changed so much.
Yeah. And there's a lot. I'm not going to say you can get all the answers online, but there's plenty of knowledge to be learned out there and kind of self-taught. So what are some goals for you over the next couple of years? Because like you and I are probably in similar business situations where like we're getting by, probably business. We would always want it to be more booming than it currently is. But what are some goals? What are some potential things you're looking to do, expand?
What I want to continue to do is obviously continue to expand, but for as much work as I do, I want to put out as much education materials as possible. It's all the freemium content. It's stuff like this. You and I
Did you just say freemium?
Freemium.
I like that. That's awesome.
Content. It's more than just, a single PDF. Like you're getting a lot of stuff out of it. It's premium content. I'm putting forth the expense. I get nothing out of it. Maybe a hello, maybe a good job, but like at the end of the day, if I can empower people and know what they want, more of my calls are me just telling them their solutions. I'm not even charging for that, because my thing is like, I want you to know whether or not you could do this yourself. And because the last thing I ever want is you think I'm taking advantage of you. Marketers have a reputation of that in some degree, and I'm trying to fix that stigma. But you and I will have to go ahead and definitely talk after the show about stuff. Trey, go ahead and wrap things up today. What is your advice for marketers and business owners that ultimately want to go ahead and bring actual short form or long form quality video into their content marketing when they're thinking about whether or not this is where they're going to take their next step, because it's an investment in time and resources? What's your advice to them?
So my best advice would be understand, and no one wants to hear this, that in the beginning, it's going to be all about organic growth, and it's going to be brutal, and it's going to be slow. But if you can be consistent and you can kind of be a little bit nimble in regards to flexibility, and what I'm trying to get at is be flexible in regards to the type of content that might end up working best for your business, because I have found some people have this grandiose vision of what they think will work. And then it's like, you know what? The desk girl, she's really good on camera and a really good talent. Maybe we should bring her into the fold, So I would just say, be open to being flexible. It is going to cost a little bit money, but I think if you can find someone like myself, that a relationship and a long-term kind of, hey, I see the potential here. I like what you guys are about. It's not about money in the beginning, and it might not even be about money in the end. But I think that's the key is whether you're sitting in that seat of trying to find the video guy or you're the video guy trying to find that client. I think if you can enter the relationship like that, it'll actually be a win-win for both, and it'll last a very long time.
Perfectly said. Trey, if people want to go ahead and learn more about what you do, possibly reach out to you, or just see all the projects that you work on, how could they do so?
So if you want to see my over 250 YouTube videos, obviously you can hit me up on YouTube at Lowell Productions. I'm on Instagram as Lowell Productions. My name is not Trey Lowell. That's my internet name, but if you look me up, you'll find everything about me. But yeah, TreyLowell.com, YouTube, Instagram. It's really just work focused. I've tried to kind of keep my family somewhat out of the business, but if you watch some of my YouTube videos, you'll see my kids and my wife occasionally, but that's where you can find me.
All your stuff is badass, dude. I love it. And I'll link to it today in the show notes. And folks, as we wrap up, remember, as I mentioned, I've got a free ebook for you. It's not just a couple pages. It's a full-on digital marketing handbook for small business owners. I don't get into too much of the weeds. This is, if you're like, I need like an idiot's guide type of deal, I gave it to you for free, basically. And this is based off, the stuff that I've seen working with small business owners, working with, fresh or, nonprofit execs that want to reboot their campaigns. You can go ahead and get that on marketerontherun.com, completely free. Scroll to the bottom. You can get this podcast as well on YouTube, Spotify, other platforms to come. So there's that. And at the end of the day, if you want to have a conversation with me, let's get something on the calendar. Scroll down to the bottom and send me a message. We'll go ahead and link up and let me help you and your team and your business or your nonprofit today. Remember, that's marketerontherun.com. So that's about it, folks. Thanks again. Goodwill towards men. Good night. And I don't know, keep running. I'm still working on a tagline. Talk to y'all later.
I love it.